Former CIA official John Stockwell.
In the meantime, this establishment, this party that we have, the single party state, this fraternity that runs this country that has two chapters, a Republican and a Democrat.
Epstein is a terrific guy.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, people in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan. I was not, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years. I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
It was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful.
Michael Lind, in his book that he published last summer called The American Nation, refers to what he calls the donor party. The donor party is the group of no more than 200,000 people in the United States who give political campaign gifts in excess of $5,000. To become a candidate, you must be first elected by the donor party. That is the beginning and end of the American democracy. It's 200,000 people. Because if you don't have money, you don't, unless you're Steve Forbes or Perot, you don't even appear on television.
People have been conditioned that it's great to have two parties. We don't want to be like Italy where there's all these choices. We want to limit our choices. It's easier that way.
And we don't want to be like the Soviet Union where there's only one party.
Yeah, that's right. So they have two. But if policies never change, what's the difference? So we do have one party.
The Holy Trinity, America is also in some way a one-party state, and it's run by a party called the Holy Trinity. I call it Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and Hollywood. These three groups of people, including the nannies that they employ, no more than 1 million people. They make all the decisions in America. That's why you have all these dissatisfaction in the country.
For hiding behind frontmen like Julius Fleischmann and dummy foundations like the Farfield, the CIA had, from its inception in 1947, alighted upon culture as one of the central theaters of the Cold War. It was the secret Maecenas, the crypto patron behind thousands of books, literally. I think its backlist runs to over 1,000 publications, of books in which it was wholly or partially involved, and scores of magazines, congresses and concerts, art exhibitions and seminars. At the close of the Second World War, the United States, the one outright victor, had suddenly found itself a superpower. Needing a culture to match, it stared over the wire at Russia, which had pursued intellectual politics ever since Catherine the Great, and set about acquiring worldwide intellectual admiration and support. As the Cold War froze and ideologies divided, the US government, through its intelligence and espionage arm, poured huge resources into a cultural propaganda campaign. A central feature of this campaign was to advance the claim that it didn't exist. The CIA was, in effect, acting as America's hidden Ministry of Culture.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
tip number 6, make clear who the ruling class are and who the capitalists are. The reason that some people become so hostile to socialism is because they are under the illusion that the bourgeoisie or the ruling class is them, right? When they hear phrases like seize the means of production, planned economy, redistribution of wealth, they hear those phrases and they think, well, that's about me. They think that that means their taxes are going to go up. They think that their house that they spent years working hard to pay off is going to be seized by the government. They think that they're going to lose their car that they saved up so much money to get. That's the illusion, right? They believe that their own personal property is the equivalent of the property of the ruling class. And you have to make clear that you actually want their personal property to expand. You would like people to live more comfortable lives, to have more houses, to have more cars. What you are opposed to is a system where the major centers of economic power, like banks, like factories, like major means of transportation, major means of communication, where these things are operated for the profits of a small group of owners. You want a rationally planned economy, and the result of that rationally planned economy will be expanding things like houses and cars and incomes for most people in the United States, right? That the bourgeoisie, the ruling class, is not average people whose income is slightly higher. It's not someone who goes to school for years to become a doctor or a lawyer. That the ruling class are those who live by owning. They own the major centers of economic power. They own banks, they own factories, they own oil wells and natural resources, they own coal mines. They live by owning. The rest of us live by working, right? We sell our labor power. And that's the difference between the capitalist class and the working class. And that an average person in the United States who has done okay, living out what they call the American dream, is not the target of a socialist revolution. The goal is for them to actually become more prosperous and more wealthy. We don't want to take away people's money. Make clear that the ruling class is not the person you're arguing with. The ruling class is the billionaire banker elite that controls the United States and rules most of the world.